I think a lot of young men in particular are feeling very disenfranchised by political correctness, and there are 87 genders and all of this nonsense, and they're lurching towards the right. I think that's a metaphor for my political career right there. Okay, that was even worse.
What about the party attracts you to them?
You know, this country has really gone to the dogs over the last 15 to 20 years, and I blame the political establishment for that, and so I felt very, very, very disenfranchised. I originally was actually going to sit the election out, but then Nigel returned to reform. I very much appealed to me, the idea of Nigel's quote-unquote political revolution that he promised, revolution via the ballot box, so I was very keen to get involved in that. I was a bit naive when I really, started all of this. Hey! Even though that's my one.
Take that point. I'm very interested in young people's support for reform. Like, what is it about Farage as a leader? What is it about the party that's like really attractive in your mind to like young people?
He is quite possibly the most charismatic leader in British politics today, and I think a lot of people are attracted to that dynamism. They admire the fact that he's one of the lads, he goes to the pub, he drinks 20 odd pints in one sitting and has a fun time, he smokes. I think people like that. I think people see him as unfiltered. And I think a lot of young people, especially myself included, especially after he came back to reform, thought, you know what, this is the guy. This is somebody who I want to lead us.
Do you think young men in particular feel disenfranchised or alienated?
Oh yes, totally. I think especially with woke, politically correct culture, we're seeing an incredible lurch from young men across the world towards the right. I mean, just look at what we listen to: Joe Rogan, Theo Von, and all of these, young, great podcasters. And this is primarily what young men are listening to. And all of these people have one thing in common. They endorse Donald Trump, and they endorse the idea, they endorse this populist nationalist message. So I think a lot of young men in particular are feeling very disenfranchised by political correctness, and there are 87 genders and all of this nonsense, and they're lurching towards the right, because fundamentally young men want the exact same thing as they have for all of time. They want a nice family, they want nice kids, and they want a good job. They don't care for all of this woke nonsense, at least in my view.
Do you think then they're parroting this kind of like singular idea of masculinity, and the one that like Trump and Farage imbue is actually slightly more alienating for young men than maybe like progressive politics offers?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so in the slightest, in my view. I think in effect, actually, it's sort of a net positive, because more and more young men are actually taking better care of themselves as a result of this sort of push for masculinity. They're going to the gym more, they're taking better care of themselves, and they're more confident. A lot of young men are now more confident as a result of rejecting this politically correct message. I speak to many young people up and down this country, and they say the exact same thing. We are sick of being told that drinking pints and having fun and being a man, being masculine, is wrong. Is
your argument basically that actually the support lies for Donald Trump, and that the support for Reform and Farage is more just that's the British party that endorses Donald Trump? You're saying young men love Donald Trump?
No, like I said, I think young men love Nigel Farage. I think young men absolutely love Nigel. I mean, he's been pervasive on social media for years with all of the TikTok edits of him and all of these amazing videos of his speeches that have gone ultra viral. And so, yeah, I think part of it has got to do with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has fundamentally changed the way politics is. However, I think a lot of young people are more concerned about issues close to home. Okay, for once I actually hit it well. For once. You're never going to be able to change Nigel Farage, but more young people like him than dislike him.
Where's that statistic from?
What? I mean, you go on Twitter, you go on TikTok.
Yeah, but you're in an algorithm.
He gets millions upon millions of hits, and the vast majority of people using TikTok are young people.
It's funny because when I go on them, the only comments I see are horrible.
Really?
Yeah, I would argue that you're kind of perhaps in an echo chamber.
No. I don't think I am. Oh, for God's sake.
How has immigration personally impacted your life negatively?
I will defend until the day I die the rights of people who want to come to this country legally, settle down, live the British dream, have a family, contribute to society. I see absolutely zero issue with that whatsoever. My primary issue is simply illegal migration. Personally, I think it undercuts the British worker, as companies can feel, and small businesses can feel obliged to charge, to pay these people far less compared to a British worker, and therefore it's, how may I say this?
I mean, but it's illegal to employ undocumented
Well,
migrants.
yes, but let's face it, people do it all the time.
Right.
People do it all the time. I'm sure in many businesses across London they employ illegal migrants. I mean, you go into some of these dodgy, dodgy fish and chip shops and all of that, and you do wonder.
But is that an assumption you're making, a prejudice that you have based on how these people look?
No. I've spoken to a couple of these people, and a couple of these people are working here illegally.
A couple?
A couple, yes.
Yeah.
A couple of these people are working here illegally.
But that's anecdotal.
Well, no. Well, yes, I mean, it can be considered anecdotal, but at the same time, I think that's simply a microcosm of the reality.
Would you say that you find your, the reaction to you on Twitter, what's it like?
It's very polarised.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very polarised. I have a lot of people who say quite possibly the most horrendous stuff about me known to man.
What about your friends, your family, relationships?
I've got lots of friends in the political sphere now, but my core group of friends from, say, school and also from Durham, I don't really speak to them anymore.
Do you say that's because of your political beliefs?
In part, yes, but also in part, no. I'd say more my core friends from school, I think they find it quite hard to accept what I have become. Dating in this sphere is very interesting, especially for lots of young right-wing people, especially when you go on dating apps. I mean, I've actually been recognised on a few of them in the past, and it's not altogether pleasant because they're so obnoxiously left-wing, the vast majority of the people on there. It can be rather hard to find romance in a way, but I count myself rather lucky, so,
Because you date left-wing girls?
No.
You have?
No. In the past, yes.
That was a great one.
What I find is, especially on Twitter, there is so much rampant demonisation. People act like I'm the devil. I'm not the devil. I'm just a young 22-year-old who's got a slightly different opinion to them.